Picture this. Imagine the quiet before sunrise, the world still asleep, and you're already up, thinking about the day ahead. You're a dairy farmer in Wisconsin, part of a proud tradition that's been passed down for generations. Your cheese, milk powder, and whey protein, products you've worked tirelessly to perfect, are all pre-sold, packed on ships bound for Europe, ready to feed families thousands of miles away. Then, overnight, your access to one of the world's biggest and most lucrative markets vanishes without warning. This isn't a hypothetical scenario or a cautionary tale. It's exactly what happened to the US dairy industry, blindsiding thousands of hardworking families. A single European Union rule change erased $3 billion in American dairy exports, instantly, with the stroke of a pen. Cargo ships already at sea, loaded with months of work and hope, were told they'd be turned away at European ports. Why? A new regulation demanded impossibly detailed sustainability data for every product, information that had never been required before. American farmers, mostly small family operations with limited resources, simply didn't have this data at their fingertips. The result? Chaos, confusion, and a colossal loss that rippled through every corner of the industry. The $3 billion hit wasn't just numbers on a spreadsheet. It meant lost barns, unpaid college tuition, and rural communities suddenly struggling to survive. This wasn't a tariff or a quota. It was a non-tariff barrier, cleverly disguised as environmentalism, but with devastating real-world consequences. The EU now required a full sustainability report for every dairy product: water usage, methane emissions, carbon footprint, and more. Energy consumption, land management practices, data no one could provide overnight, especially not small family farms. The system was designed to fail, and for American farmers, it worked exactly as intended. The fallout was immediate and brutal, with families forced to make impossible choices about their futures. Real families, real farms, and entire communities were pushed to the brink, their way of life suddenly at risk. All because of a rule that appeared out of nowhere, stranding the American dairy industry with billions in unsellable cheese and milk powder. It was a complete and utter mess, a disaster that no one saw coming and no one was prepared for. The shockwave was felt across the heartland, shuttering businesses and leaving uncertainty in its wake. And it all happened in the blink of an eye, changing lives and livelihoods forever. The rule, known as the Carney Directive, was the brainchild of EU Trade Commissioner Carney, a figure renowned for her tough stance on international trade and environmental policy. Her vision was to reshape the global market through regulation. Officially, the directive was about fighting climate change, ensuring that all imports to the EU met the bloc's strict environmental standards, which were among the highest in the world. But the Carney Directive demanded detailed, farm-level data that the US agricultural system simply couldn't provide, no matter how hard American farmers tried to comply. Many critics saw it as protectionism disguised in green clothing, a regulatory wall so high that American farmers found it nearly impossible to climb over or break through. As a result, European producers thrived, enjoying less competition, while US farmers were effectively locked out of one of their most lucrative export markets. Whether it was truly about green policy or a form of economic warfare, the outcome was the same. The US dairy industry found itself shut out, facing mounting losses and uncertainty. The Carney Directive stands as a stark example of how complex regulations can be weaponized in global trade, shifting the balance of power with the stroke of a pen. Sometimes, the deadliest barriers aren't physical. They're buried deep in the fine print, hidden within pages of legal jargon and technical requirements. The loss hit rural America like a tornado. With Europe closed, a dairy glut crashed US prices by 40% in weeks. Over 1,500 family farms closed within 6 months. The pain rippled out. Feed suppliers, vets, and local businesses all suffered. For many, losing the farm meant losing a legacy and a way of life. The Carney Directive's burden fell hardest on small family farmers, not big corporations. It's a harsh reminder. Distant policies can devastate real communities. The moment the US was out of the game, competitors like New Zealand and Australia swooped in, eager to seize the opportunity. These countries had been waiting for a chance to expand their reach in the lucrative European market, and now the door was wide open. They'd already invested heavily in the traceability systems the EU demanded, ensuring every drop of milk could be tracked from farm to table. With these systems in place, they quickly filled the $3 billion gap left by the US, barely missing a beat. New Zealand, especially, became the EU's new favorite supplier, proudly touting their green credentials and sustainable farming practices. Their products, now labeled as eco-friendly, appealed to European consumers more than ever. Back in the US, dairy producers watched in disbelief as their market share vanished almost overnight, leaving farms eerily quiet and production lines idle. Washington protested the sudden shift, launching formal complaints and trade disputes. But these processes take years to resolve, far too late for struggling American farmers who needed immediate relief. Retrofitting the entire US dairy industry to comply with new standards would cost billions and take years, an impossible task for small family farms already operating on razor-thin margins. The US was stuck. No data, no access to the market, and no easy fix in sight. Farmers faced mounting losses and uncertainty about their future. Meanwhile, overseas competitors grew stronger and more entrenched, expanding their production lines and shipping out record volumes of dairy products. The global dairy trade had been fundamentally reordered, with new leaders emerging and old powers left behind. The US was left on the outside, looking in, wondering if it could ever reclaim its place at the table. This is about more than dairy. The Carney Directive is a warning for all of global trade. When a single rule change can cause this much chaos, the system is dangerously fragile. The EU is already planning similar regulations for other products. The US must invest in resilience, help small producers adapt, and diversify markets. We need stronger domestic systems so rural America isn't at the mercy of foreign regulators. The dairy crisis was a $3 billion lesson. The real question, will we learn from it before the next shock hits?